All right, Florida State takes on the Gators in just a couple of days, and much like Florida State, the Gators will be starting a different quarterback than the other 11 games that they've played this year. Unfortunately, Graham Mertz went down with an injury just shortly after Jordan Travis did, and the Gators will turn to Max Brown, who looks pretty good in very limited action against Missouri. Did have one hiccup that we'll talk with Dave Waters of Gators Breakdown. Gator Dave, how you doing, man?
Good, man. Good to be back on with you here, talking Florida State. And yeah, as you said, man, hey, man, the storylines were already there, but even more so now.
Yeah, it was, and it's funny how, like, not funny because none of it's funny this week. Everything's just depressing. But it's funny that, like, Jordan gets hurt, and so the narrative becomes like, oh my goodness, now they got to go in and they got to play. And then Florida's quarterback gets hurt, and it's like, well, that's a whole new different dynamic with a running QB or a QB who can use his legs. And so we'll certainly talk about some of that. When you look at this, let's start with Graham Mertz. Not a lot of people believed in him. Not a lot of people, I will say, in working with a little bit more Florida stuff this year, there's a little bit of like, Florida fans are quick to say like, man, none of y'all believed in it. Florida fans didn't believe in him either. Like, just to be fair, like Florida fans are like, yeah, Florida State, you were wrong about Mertz. And I'm like, wait a minute. No Florida fan that I knew wanted Graham Mertz to be, and hats off to him. Tough kid. Yeah. He took an absolute, I think I said like week 3, I was looking at my friends like, he's gonna get killed. Like that, he's taking shots, and he really stood in there all year. Just the toughness to the play he got hurt on, even more so, really just embodied that. So hats off to him for sure. But I want to ask you, like, he would never admit to this, but would you say that Graham Mertz probably even exceeded what Billy Napier expected this year? Like, I don't think Napier knew it was going to be this good, and he'd never tell you that, right? But I feel like me and you could talk about it.
Yeah, that's a good angle to it. I'd say yeah. I mean, granted, Billy Napier did say, oh, yeah, there was 30, 40 quarterbacks we looked at. He was the one we pinpointed. And, I mean, look, it did look like he was going to Kentucky at one point. He had visited Kentucky, I think, the week he visited Florida. And then, and it was kind of a surprise. He put up on his Instagram story, hey, I'm in the swamp. And it was like, okay, Graham Mertz is there? Okay, all right, well, maybe he's going to Kentucky. And then all of a sudden it was, no, okay, it's Florida. And, yeah, TJ, as you said, man, it was not a lot of love there when he decided to transfer to Florida. And it was like, oh, go look at his Wisconsin stats. And look, I fell into the trap as well initially. Okay, oh, go look at it. Well, look, he's AR without the legs. That's what we're getting. And that was a label that was put on him. But he definitely exceeded expectations there. But, as that time from commitment to game 1, we all kind of went back and looked, okay, what hurt him at Wisconsin? Why did he not have success at Wisconsin? And then right before the season, Paul Chryst comes out and said, yeah, maybe we didn't put him in the best situations. And then I think the light kind of dinged on to, all right, maybe Florida does have a little bit more here with Graham Mertz. And it didn't really show up right away in game 1. I mean, the stats were good, but you knew a lot of those were padded stats because they were fighting from behind the whole time versus Utah. But maybe that was a glimpse into what some of we were getting there from Graham Mertz. And week by week, as you said, he had to kind of make up for a lackluster offensive line, a run game that probably wasn't quite there where it was last year as well, and still waiting for some weapons to identify themselves as well. We knew Ricky Pearsall, but Trey Wilson hadn't emerged yet. Arlis Boardingham hadn't emerged yet. And once those guys kind of started getting their feet under them a little bit, you started seeing this offense taking some steps a bit. So, yeah, credit for Graham Mertz being a leader, showing a lot of toughness this year. And as you said, that last play where, look, he was wearing number 15. He looked like Tim Tebow running over the defenders there for a play. The adrenaline gets to him and runs one more play, and all of a sudden he's coming off the field. And you kind of knew right then, as soon as he started grabbing shoulder, collarbone area, all right, that's probably going to be it for Graham Mertz. But, yeah, credit to him for kind of exceeding expectations and, really kind of lifting this Florida offense through a tough season.
Yeah, he almost, no pun intended, used it as a chip on his shoulder, right? Like, yeah. I'm going to prove all of you guys wrong, and he really was good. And he'll be fun to watch again next year if he does return, which I guess we'll see in a few weeks or so. His backup, Max Brown. We'll talk about the Missouri game in just a minute, but just high-level thoughts on Max Brown. Like, what is UF getting in a quarterback for this final regular season game out of Max Brown?
Yeah, as you said earlier, definitely more athletic, so the running quarterback aspect of the Florida offense comes back into play, which was what we saw with Levi Lewis and Billy Napier at Louisiana, what we saw with Billy Napier and Anthony Richardson last year. Now, Definitely not the explosion of Anthony Richardson. I don't think you see a out of nowhere 65-yard run happening, but to help move the chains, to help this run game with the running backs open up a bit. That's what you're going to get with Max Brown. And I still think we're still going to question what he can do in the passing game. That's probably an element of surprise going into the Florida State game. Now, of course, Florida State knows now to definitely prepare for a zone read, prepare for an athletic quarterback, but there's not a lot of passing tape on Max Brown. So that's still an element of surprise Florida will have there. But at the same time, now the spotlight is on Max Brown. How does he react to being the guy? How does he react to having a game plan built around him for a week? But TJ, I mean, his stats there were unreal in his 2 year. Lincoln Christian from Oklahoma, 4,416 yards, 68 passing touchdowns. So he's got the stat profile you would want in a high school quarterback. Didn't play a whole lot of good competition. He was a three-star, basically identified by Jim McElwain. That's where he was going to go before he chose to go to Florida after Billy Napier offered him there in that initial class for Billy Napier. So it's going to look a little different with him being the athletic style quarterback, but of course now we just got to go see. And look, going up against FSU in that pass defense, their stats speak for themselves. Of even if he is a good passing quarterback, how much success can he have against that Florida State defense?
All right, I'll get right back to Dave in just a second. Appreciate him for joining us. But if you are going to the game this weekend, come tailgate with us. If you're going to be anywhere in the area, listen, if you live Tampa, Orlando, wherever, and you don't have tickets to the game, come out to the tailgate. We're going to be showing the game at the tailgate. We'll have a ton of food, a ton of booze. Guthrie's, as always, will be out there for you guys. I know that's really the only reason you come. It's not to see me or the games or anything like that, but we will have a blast. We've been doing this. We started in Orlando. We're finishing up in Gainesville. Actually, we'll be in Charlotte and then hopefully the playoff too. But finishing up the regular season in Gainesville, we'll have a ton of fun. It's Noles Gators 2023.eventbrite.com. Link is in the description as well. We'll pin a comment with that there for you guys. Come hang out with us. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you on Saturday. Yeah, and one thing I'll let you speak to this too. And my thought on it is, where is he mentally, right? And I think when you get thrust into the game and you don't have time to think, like he just went out and played. And he looked good. I mean, he had the one hiccup with the fumble. I mean, whatever. Like, he drove them down 3 straight times, and minus the hiccup the fumble. I mean, he was essentially great. I thought he was phenomenal. But he just went in and played. And he didn't have a week to think about it. He didn't have a week to think about playing the number 4 team and a top 10 defense and all these other things, right? And a game plan. And so, to me, that's where it's at. Where is he at mentally? Because it's almost like you never want to say it's almost like if Mertz just got hurt on the first drive of the Florida State game, and then he just got to go in and play, would things look a little different? I mean, obviously, then you wouldn't have time to game plan. I also thought that caught Missouri a little bit off guard.
Right.
Anything away from Brown. Yeah. But I was chatting with some UF people, and they agree. Like, if Missouri would have had a week to prepare, does Brown look a little bit different? Is that an advantage for Florida State at some point? And I think possibly, but nobody likes, and I tweeted this yesterday, nobody likes playing a mobile quarterback. Nobody likes there's another option that you now have to defend. I mean, if Mertz is out there, you don't really have to defend against the run. I would play breaks down. I mean, he was capable enough. Yeah. He had a nice run that he got hurt on, but nobody likes to play that mobile quarterback. And so, to me, it's where can Brown be mentally throughout this week? Fortunately for him, playing at home, I think is a big deal, not having to go to Tallahassee this year. But that's my biggest question, and I guess something that we'll see answered this weekend.
Yeah, my thing is, in Billy Napier, kind of a running joke is he's been masterful at first drives of games and putting up points. Yeah. That's not my worry with Max Brown either. My worry is, okay, second, third quarter, when you've got to adjust, when you may have to catch up a little bit, when when the plays aren't so scripted. How much of the playbook is actually there for Max Brown? Is it predictable play calling because they only know so much, they only trust him with so much, or can they expand the playbook a bit because of his legs and because of his knowledge? This is his second season there, so he's got 2 years of experience in this offense. So my big question is, how much does he know of the offense to second, third, fourth quarter? Be able to put that plan to work there. So yeah, it's as you said, being at home helps too, I think. But at the same time, it is a big question of how much he can actually lead this offense.
If there was one knock on Mertz, or if there was one thing that folks thought he didn't do super well, it was being accurate down the field. What does Brown's arm look like? What, is he? I mean, I know it's a question, and we haven't seen it a ton, but is he a little more accurate down the field? Does he have a bigger arm potential, or what? What would you kind of rate him? Again, I know that passing is a question mark right now, but thoughts around that?
Yeah, I mean, of course, in high school you see it a lot with this film. Yeah, he's pushing the ball down the field. Competition probably comes into play a bit there. Smooth release. I think in this, I guess my biggest question would be: would he be willing to pass the ball down the field? That's probably where some of the knock on Mertz was as well. Is he at times wouldn't be willing to go down the field? So. Yeah, I think a confidence in this offense probably goes a long way in that for Max Brown. But I think plenty strong enough arm to push the ball down the field. But the problem, I think, goes into there, how much does that pair into the offensive line? Part of this issue for Florida and Graham Mertz was when they would do a play action where you need time to throw and try to push the ball down the field, he didn't have time. He would have to escape pressure. He would have to avoid a possible sack. And does Brown have to do the same thing? Now, if he does, he might can get away from it a little bit easier. He might actually take off and run. But my biggest question there is, besides the arm talent for Max Brown, will he have time to go deep?
Florida State also obviously starting a backup quarterback in Tate Rodemaker. How do you think that changes what Florida wants to do defensively? And are they maybe sighing somewhat of a sigh of relief? Because I think Jordan might still be running from last year.
Yeah, like a other bunch of running quarterbacks this year too. Jaden Daniels is still running as well. Yeah. It does change some things in that aspect, but the big worry is Florida's given up so many explosives, and